Hello friends, this is Katzune. Welcome back to Storytime. Today we are reading The Steadfast Tin Soldier. There were once 25 tin soldiers who were all brothers as they were cast from an old tin spoon. They all carried a gun in their left arm and looked straight forward. Their uniform was red and blue. The first words which they heard upon seeing the light of day when the lid was taken off of the box in which they were packed were tin soldiers. Those words were uttered by a little boy who had received them as a birthday present, and clapped his hands for joy. He then put them in rank and file on the table. One soldier looked exactly like the other, only one, who had been cast last of all, when there was not enough tin, was not like his brothers, for he only had one leg. Nevertheless, he stood just as firmly on his one leg as all the others on two, and he was the one who became remarkable. On the table on which they were placed were many other toys, but what caught the eye most of all was the pretty little castle of cardboard. Through its small windows one could look into the rooms. Before the castle stood little trees surrounding a cleared lake, which was formed by a small looking-glass. Swans made of wax were swimming on it, and were reflected by it. All this was very pretty, but the prettiest of all was a little lady who stood in the open door of the castle. She was cut out of paper, but she had a frock of the whitest muslin on, and a piece of narrow blue ribbon was fixed on her shoulders like a bodice. On it was fixed a glistening tinsel rose, as large as her whole face. The little lady stretched out both arms, for she was a dancer, and she had lifted one leg high up so that the tin soldier could not see it, and he thought she only had one leg, like himself. That is a wife for me, he thought, but she is very grand. She lives in a castle, while I only have a box, which I share with 24. That is not a place for her, but I must make her acquaintance. And then he laid himself at full length behind a snuff-box which was on the table. From his place he could see the little well-dressed lady, who continued to stand on one leg without losing her balance. At night the tin soldiers were put back into their box, and the people of the house went to bed. Now the toys began to play, to pay visits, to make war, and to go to the balls. The tin soldiers rattled in their box, for they wished to take part in the games, but they could not raise the lid. The nutcrackers made somersaults. The slate pencil enjoyed itself on the slate. They made so much noise that the canary woke up and began to talk, that in verse. The tin soldier and the dancer were the only ones who remained in their places. She was standing on tiptoe with her arms stretched out. He stood firmly on his one leg, never taking his eyes away from her for a moment. When the clock struck 12, suddenly the lid of the box was flung open. There was no snuff in it, but a small black jack in the box, who had performed his trick. "Tin soldier," said the jack, "don't covet things that do not belong to you." The tin soldier pretended not to hear anything. "All right, wait till tomorrow," said the jack. When the morning had come and the children were up, the tin soldier was placed on the window-sill. All at once, whether through draught or through the jack, the window flew open, and the soldier fell headlong down into the street to the third story. That was a terrible fall. His one leg high up in the air, he stood on his helmet, while his bayonet entered the ground between the paving stones. The servant and the little boy came down at once to look for him, but although they were so close to him they almost trod upon him, they did not find him. If the tin soldier had cried, "Here I am," they would have surely found him, but he did not consider it proper to cry aloud, because he was in uniform. Now it began to rain, first very little, but soon more, till it became a heavy shower. When the rain had ceased, two boys passed by the soldier. "Look, there is a tin soldier," said one of them. "Let us make a boat for him." They made a boat out of paper of a newspaper, put the tin soldier in it, and let him float down the gutter. Both ran by the side and clapped their hands for pleasure. Heaven preserve us! There were large waves in the gutter, and a strong current too, for the rain had begun pouring down in torrents. The paper boat was rocking up and down. Sometimes it turned around so quickly that the tin soldier trembled, but he remained firm. He did not move a muscle and looked straight forward, holding the gun on his arm. Suddenly the boat was driven under a large bridge, which was over the gutter, and there it became dark in the tin soldier's box. "What am I going to do?" he thought. "This is the fault of the black jack-in-the-box. I wish the little lady were here with me in the boat, that I should not mind how dark it was." Then came a big water rat which lived under the bridge. "Have you a passport?" asked the rat. "Give it up at once." But the tin soldier was silent and held his gun tighter than before. The boat was rushing forward. The rat followed, gnashing his teeth and crying out to the chips of wood and straws, "Stop him! Stop him! He has paid no toll and has not shown his passport." The current became stronger and stronger. The tin soldier could already see the light of day where the bridge ended, but he also heard a roaring noise, strong enough to frighten a brave man. Just think, the gutter rat ran there, where the bridge ended, into the canal, and was for him as dangerous as for us to cross a big waterfall. He was already so close to it that stopping was impossible. The boat drifted on. The poor tin soldier held himself as stiff as he could. Nobody could say of him that he had blinked an eye. The boat rapidly whirled around 3 or 4 times and was filled with water to the very brim. He must sink down. The tin soldier stood up to his neck in the water. Deeper and deeper sank the boat. More and more the paper became wet and limp. Then the water crossed over his head. He thought of the sweet little dancer which he should never see again, and it sounded to his ear. "Farewell, soldier, true and brave. Nothing now thy life can save." Then the paper boat fell to pieces, and the tin soldier, sinking into the water, was swallowed by a large fish. It was indeed very dark inside the fish, much darker than under the bridge over the gutter, and in addition it was awfully narrow. But the tin soldier remained firm, and lay down at full length, holding his gun tightly in his arm. The fish was swimming about, and made most extraordinary movements. At last it became quiet. It seemed as if a flash of lightning passed through it. The broad daylight appeared, and a voice said, "Hello, there is a tin soldier." The fish had been caught and taken to the market. There it had been sold and brought to a kitchen, where the cook was just cutting it open. With 2 fingers she took the tin soldier round the waist, carried him into the room to show everybody the wonderful man who had been traveling about in a fish's stomach. But the tin soldier was not proud. They put him on the table, and there, what a strange thing occurred in this world. He was in the same place where he had been before. He saw the same children, and the same toys were on the table. There was also the pretty castle with the dear little dancer. She still stood on one leg and held the other high up in the air. She was too steadfast. The tin soldier was very much touched, and he nearly shed tin tears. But that was not something for a soldier. He looked at her, but said nothing. Suddenly, one of the little boys took up the tin soldier and threw him into the stove, without giving any reason for this strange conduct. Surely it was again the fault of the jack-in-the-box. The tin soldier stood there in the strong light and felt an unbearable heat. But whether this heat had caused by the real fire or by love, he did not know. His colors had vanished, but nobody could say that if it had happened during his journey, or if heart grief was the cause of it. He looked at the little lady, and she looked at him, and he felt that he was melting, but still he stood upright with his gun in his arm. All at once a door flew open. The wind seized the dancer. She flew like a sylph into the stove to the tin soldier, where she was burnt and gone in a moment. The tin soldier melted down into a lump, and when the servant cleared out the cinders on the next morning, she found it in the shape of a little tin heart. Of the little dancer, only the tinsel rose was left, which had become black as coal. That's kind of sad. If you have any suggestions for any stories that you would like me to read, or any other different types of stories, please drop a comment down below, and if you're having fun, go ahead and subscribe.